Have you ever heard someone say your name and it stopped you in your tracks? Not because they shouted, not because they said something profound, but because they remembered you, because in that moment you weren't just another face, you were you. Dale Carnegie said it best, a person's name is to that person the sweetest sound in any language, and in a world that forgets so quickly, the one who remembers your name becomes unforgettable. They say there's magic in a name, that when spoken with care, it becomes more than just a label. It becomes recognition, dignity, and memory all at once. Think about it. In a world where people scroll past, glance over, and rush through, the moment someone remembers your name, speaks it with warmth, with intention, it stops you. It softens you. Because suddenly you're not just another face in the crowd, you're you. Seen, known, valued. Dale Carnegie didn't just stumble upon this idea, he lived it, taught it, embedded it into every lesson he ever shared about human connection. Why? Because he understood something that most people forget in the noise of modern life. We don't crave attention, we crave acknowledgement. And there's no deeper, more personal acknowledgement than someone calling us by name, not out of habit, but out of heart. It's not just a sound, it's a signal. A person's name is the one word they've heard since the beginning of their story. It's stitched into every chapter of their life, whispered by loved ones, shouted in triumph, murmured in fear, etched on diplomas, letters, trophies, tombstones. When you say someone's name, really say it, you're honoring their entire story. You're saying, I see you. I care enough to remember. And yet, how often do we forget? In business meetings, in chance encounters, in passing conversations, we let names slip by as if they're unimportant. But names are bridges. They're the first step in making someone feel like they matter. Say a name, and you open a door. Forget it, and you build a wall. That's the difference between being transactional and transformational. Think of the people you remember most fondly in life. The teacher who changed your path, the friend who stuck by you, the boss who believed in you. I promise you, they knew your name, they used it, they smiled when they said it, and in that moment, you felt something shift. You felt seen. You felt real. That's the emotional power we hold. Every single time we choose to remember or forget someone's name. And yet, in today's fast world, where followers matter more than friends and usernames replace handshakes, we're forgetting how to connect at the most basic level. We send messages, we schedule meetings, we build networks, but we forget the name. We forget the soul behind the screen. We forget that leadership doesn't start with strategy. It starts with sincerity. When you remember someone's name, you tell them you're not invisible, and that might be the only time that person feels that way all day. In a sea of people walking with heads down and hearts guarded, the smallest gesture can become a miracle. The name is the key. And yet, most never bother to carry it. Carnegie taught that names are a tool, not for manipulation, for connection. Because when you say someone's name, you're not just being polite. You're touching something human. You're starting a conversation from a place of care, not convenience. You're choosing to lead with heart, not with hierarchy. And that changes everything. Because here's what most people never realize. Leadership isn't about commanding people. It's about connecting with them. And connection doesn't begin with orders or titles or authority. It begins with the smallest moment of acknowledgement, with eye contact, with presence, with their name. The manager who barks tasks without names creates fear. The leader who calls you by name before they ask anything of you, they create loyalty. Because when someone uses your name sincerely, they're not just speaking to you, they're reaching into you. They're saying, you matter. I know you. I recognize you. And that recognition sticks long after the meeting ends. The task is done. The company moves on. We are human first. And in a world growing colder with automation and anonymity, that truth becomes more sacred than ever. When a nurse calls you by name before a difficult procedure, when a stranger asks your name during a moment of vulnerability, when someone you admire remembers your name months after a brief introduction, something opens. Something inside says, I'm safe here. Because your name is your identity wrapped in sound. It's the banner of your story. And when someone misuses it, forgets it, shortens it out of convenience, it stings, doesn't it? It's not just the letters that hurt. It's the message behind it. You weren't worth remembering. But when someone remembers it, honors it, says it with care, the message is just as clear. You are worth knowing. That's why every great communicator, every timeless leader, every unforgettable human, they made people feel remembered. Carnegie knew it wasn't about what he could say. It was about how you felt in his presence. And the simplest way to start that feeling, use their name, not just once. Use it like it matters, because it does. And if you're wondering, does it really make that much of a difference? Let me ask you this. Think back to the last time someone used your full name, looked you in the eye and spoke with calm sincerity. How did that feel? Now compare that to the last time someone skipped past it, called you man or hey or buddy. See the gap? Feel the distance? That's the difference between people who communicate and people who connect. And if you want to make people feel seen, if you want to influence hearts, not just behaviors, it starts there. Because when you remember someone's name, you become someone worth remembering. You give what the world is starving for: significance. You give what machines can't. You give what money can't buy and status can't fake. You give a piece of your attention, and in that attention lives change. One name, one moment, one heartbeat of recognition. That's where transformation begins. That's where rapport is born. That's where connection becomes unbreakable. Because at the end of the day, people don't follow information. They follow emotion. And the first emotional gateway, the name. But don't mistake simplicity for weakness. Just because using someone's name is easy doesn't mean it's insignificant. In fact, the smallest things, done with intention, often carry the greatest weight. It's not the grand gestures that earn trust. It's the details, the follow-up text, the remembered birthday, the quiet use of their name in a crowded room when no one else bothers to say it. In business, this is a superpower. People do business with people they trust. And trust begins with care. It begins with someone feeling like more than a transaction, more than a sale, more than a signature on a dotted line. When you remember a name and use it, you're telling them, you are not just another meeting in my calendar. You are a person, and I care enough to make that personal. Dale Carnegie built an empire on this truth, not by outshouting the world, but by listening to it, by remembering that people will forgive your mistakes, your missteps, even your failures, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And nothing makes a person feel smaller than being forgotten. Nothing makes them feel larger than being remembered. That's why this principle runs so deep. It's not about flattery. It's not a gimmick. It's not some clever trick to gain influence. It's a philosophy, a way of life, a commitment to honoring the humanity in every person you meet. Because every person is living a story you haven't heard. Every person is fighting a battle you don't see. And sometimes the first sign that they're not invisible is hearing their name in your voice. Think about the names etched in your own memory, the ones you still carry, the ones you long to hear again. We don't remember people by the things they said about themselves. We remember them by how they said our names, when they spoke it with kindness, when they whispered it in pain, when they said it one last time, before goodbye. Names stay with us. They echo through our lives. They're the first thing we learn and often the last thing we cling to. So don't ever underestimate what happens when you use someone's name with love, with clarity, with care. That single act can pull someone back from despair, lift someone from shame, spark confidence in someone who hasn't heard it said kindly in years. We think leadership means shouting from stages, but often it's just remembering the name of the janitor, looking the waitress in the eye, greeting your team one by one, not in a group. These aren't performance tactics. They're the heartbeat of influence. They say, I value you, not just your work, not just your title, you. Because people don't give their loyalty to charisma. They give it to consistency. And there's nothing more consistent, more repeatable, more simple than using someone's name with sincerity every time you see them. That's how relationships are built. That's how trust compounds. That's how you lead without force, through feeling. And maybe that's what sets extraordinary leaders apart from the rest. It's not that they have better strategies, it's that they build better connections. While others chase attention, they give it. While others rush past people, they pause. And in that pause, they remember your name. It's a small hinge that opens massive doors. Careers have been built on a single remembered name. Relationships have been restored because someone heard their name said with tenderness after years of silence. A child begins to believe in themselves again because a teacher stopped, looked them in the eyes, and said their name with pride. That's not motivation. That's transformation. We all carry wounds, small moments where we felt overlooked, ignored, dismissed, but we also carry flashes of light, moments where someone remembered us, and it always starts with the name. Because when someone says your name, it cuts through the fog of the world's distractions. It brings you back. It tells your nervous system, I'm not alone. I matter here. And once someone feels that, they open, they trust, they show up. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. One name at a time. Dale Carnegie knew it long before neuroscience confirmed it, that the brain lights up when we hear our own name, that our identity centers are activated, that hearing our name said kindly can release oxytocin, the chemical of bonding. Science caught up with what the heart has always known. Names are not labels. They are anchors, and we all have the power to use them, to remember, to honor, to say it out loud, even when we're tired, even when we're busy, especially then, because that's when it counts. When someone least expects to be seen, and you look at them and say, good morning, Maria. Thank you, Jamal. I appreciate you, Claire. It's not just what you say. It's how you say it. It's what they hear beneath the words, you're not forgotten. You belong. And here's the secret. Once you make people feel like they belong, they will go to the ends of the earth with you. They'll bring their best. They'll speak their truth. They'll show up fully. Because loyalty isn't bought, it's built. And the bricks are small, consistent acts of care. A name is one of them, but it's one of the strongest. That's why in the middle of chaos, when you're leading a team, giving a speech, managing a crisis, say someone's name, not for performance, for grounding, for human connection, for presence. That name may be the only thing keeping someone centered in that moment. And when all is said and done, when the room clears, the project ends, the applause fades, what people remember is how you made them feel, not what you achieved, not the titles you held, but whether you saw them, whether you made them feel like more than a tool, more than a task, more than a means to your end, whether you looked them in the eye, smiled, and said their name like it mattered, because it does. In a world where people are hungry to be seen, not for what they can do, but for who they are, the smallest act of calling someone by name becomes an act of leadership, of love, of legacy. It says, you're not invisible. You're not a shadow in the crowd. You're not forgotten. And those words, they echo. Long after the moment passes, long after you've gone, they linger in the soul. So take the time, make the effort, learn the names, remember them, say them with meaning, spell them right, pronounce them fully, ask if you forget, practice until you get it. Because behind that name is someone's story, someone's childhood, someone's hopes, and sometimes someone's pain. Don't say the name like it's an item on a checklist. Say it like it's a prayer. Say it like it's a promise. Say it like it matters, because it does. And when you do, you create something sacred. You create safety. You create respect. You create connection. And in that space, the real work begins. That's when people rise. That's when they believe. That's when they follow. Not because they have to, but because they want to. This is what Dale Carnegie knew, that human beings aren't complicated. We're not hard to reach. We don't need to be manipulated or managed. We need to be remembered. And a name, spoken with warmth, is the doorway to everything that matters. Influence, leadership, trust, legacy. It all begins there. So say the name. Say it often. Say it right. Say it like you mean it, because to that person, no matter who they are, where they're from, what they've done, it's the sweetest sound in the world. And in a world full of noise, being the one who makes someone feel remembered is the loudest kind of leadership there is.